Hey guys, it's Matt. I mentioned I watched Braveheart a few weeks ago. That last scene really hit me in terms of the types of reality discussions that we have. It's either a truth drop, which means it's intentional, or there's just truth flowing out of the last scene that we use to interpret into our own little reality journey here. So the truth drop could still be intentional without the directors, writers, or Mel Gibson knowing about it, like a retrocausality language just flowing out. Either way, there's truth in it. All about, I wish I could find a few better images. I'll probably just stick with this. Most people have seen Braveheart. But the last scene, the torture scene, is all about kiss the royal emblem. All this can end. All this torture and misery can end. Just kiss the royal seal on my cloak, and it will all go away. And he puts him on the rack to begin. And he stretch him, and he's pleasant, yes, stretch him. Just kiss the royal seal. What is the symbolism in that final scene of such a big, humongous movie that was meant to be made great so the world would see it? Kiss the royal seal. Now, our detractors come along and say, "Oh, here you guys go again. There's some secret reality message that you guys are going to see that's in." It's just about submitting to the king. You don't have to read into it too much. You reality junkie son of a beach. I mean, it's just as simple as it seems. They want to show the crowd that you submit to Longshanks. Longshanks' enemies eventually submit. It's for the crowd. It's nothing you reality junkies have some truth drop. Really? Even if it's not, even if there's no intention whatsoever, no retrocausality language, we still can use this scene in terms of defining what we need to do in life. Is the royal seal the Notnilc itself? That's kind of what we're going to explore here. The book that I'm finishing up, and then there'll be a few more weeks of proofing. I might start reading certain sections from it pretty soon. We'll see. The book is basically a two-part reality. We explored all the specific conspiracies in the last book. If the world were real, this wouldn't happen. What are the chances this could happen? And it just, you put all the coincidences together in terms of one probability times another probability becomes one in trillions. I don't buy one in trillions. You probably don't buy. If something's one in trillions, then it's probably not. If it's one in trillions, then it's probably 1-to-1, meaning a probability can get so absurd that you say, wait, that's not possible. I don't believe in one in trillions. It was exactly meant to be. It was 1-to-1. Almost, I don't like predestiny. I don't like fatalism. But, for example, the greatest way to see this example is the Big Bang. Most scientists would say the chances of you sitting here right now listening to the words that are coming out of my mouth because you came from an explosion in space through Darwin's grasses, tundras, and monkey men, the chances of you being here right now, and it couldn't even be 1 in a trillion. It would be 1 in trillion to the order of magnitude, 10 to the 100 to the 1,000 order of magnitude. Once a point, it doesn't matter what it is. Once a probability becomes that remote, then it's just the opposite, in my opinion. It's 1-to-1, meaning the chances of you sitting here listening to the words that are coming out of my mouth right now was exactly meant to be 1-to-1. Our take, and I can speak for you and the old guard, I believe, because we've shared enough thoughts over the years, we believe the exact opposite of these idiot egghead scientists. At this point in my life, like there's only one thing that I dream about doing. I would love nothing more in life than to debate the palace guard, to debate the defenders of authority of this system. The closest university, I don't mean some guy in the mall that's going to scream conspiracy theorist. I'm talking about these professors at Villanova is the closest university to me that's a major university. I don't know, 20 miles from here. The University of Pennsylvania, Penn, the Ivy League school, is downtown Philadelphia, maybe 30 miles from here. To be at a podium against somebody that actually believes in the Big Bang and then to debate these issues, there's nothing, it gives me chills just thinking about that. And then we could film it, and oh my goodness, the people we'd be debating, we could get like the great debaters with Denzel Washington. I could recruit some of you. We could do a team against these eggheads, and they would actually be taking the position that we all came from a Big Bang. We were then at some point, I have no idea what they would say. We were bacteria and flagellum or flagella or whatever, astanta. And we were grasses and trees, and then somehow we became rats and marmots, and then we became something like Chaka from Land of the Lost. Chaka, some sort of monkey man from Land of, maybe some he would say they would say we were something like the Sleet Stacks, and I have no idea what they would say. But I would say back to them, I would say, you know what evidence there is that something was born and during the course of its life became a different species than its mother? Zero. You have zero. You have squat. Do you know what the evidence is? That something evolved into a different species during the course of its lifetime? See, these are the only two ways you can win. Think about that. They have zero examples, zero recorded incidents in the only two ways they can win. And yet this is the established theory throughout the world. If that doesn't give reality away by itself, guys, I don't know what does. So going way down into the weeds here, if anybody can arrange this sort of debate or a debate on what happened in 2001 or anything like that with any of these professor eggheads at any university from here to Philadelphia, oh my gosh, nothing could please me more, but I doubt that'll ever happen. The reason I started talking about this, and I do need to, staring at the same picture you're looking at, kiss the royal emblem on my cloak, I need to get back to the original point of this video. It's talking about the old book, and there's so many things documented, so many impossibilities, so many strange phenomenon, that if you do the probabilities on it, it gets into the trillions, to the order of the 10, order the 100th magnitude. That is not possible. Therefore, whether you believe it was slated to be, meant to be, for your spiritual journey, or whatever, it at least shows the world isn't, I always say, very real, but you know what I mean. Not real at all, basically, fluid reality. And the impossibility of it all, statistically, then points back to you were meant to be here. Or, as Tony would say, you agreed to come here, not random, the exact opposite of what science would put forth. Most people, or almost everyone listening to this, of course, would not believe anything about Darwin or the Big Bang, and it was all random. They would believe closer to the opposite end of the spectrum, that we might have small differences as what we agree or disagree on, or whatever your religion might be, but we were generally meant to be here. Now, once you have that clarified for yourself, or you truly believe that, then it's very important. It gets back, we're going to get back to, it says here, kiss the royal emblem on my cloak, and this whole point of this scene. Then what defines why you're here? What are the metrics for success? As you have this belief set, it's more defined by you, and we are meant to define winning ourselves, which we don't do a good job of in this community. Even though we say, oh, we see through the trick, that's part one. Part two, doing the work. But what defines success? How do we know we're not supposed to define the parameters of our own success? You know, this is where we come up way short, guys. Even in what I've done via the book and the writing of it, it's not focused enough at all on this section. Maybe I have to add this in. Life itself, two parts. Part one, a trick is being played here on all real people through the whole breadth of society and culture and all the minions. A gigantic trick is being played. Do we see through the trick? In this community, of course we see through the trick. In the past, we thought that was enough to win. Oh, we won. No, not at all, in my opinion now. Part two, okay, now that we see through the trick, we see what it's blocking us, why it's trying to distract us. What work in life do we need to do to better our spiritual whole? Okay, that's part two. We all understand that now. But this is part three, related to this meme and this image. Who defines success? And what we need to do a better job defining it for ourselves, not just going into the moment of death saying, well, we saw through the trick, we started to work on ourselves, we did the best we could. This scene is kind of saying, it's definitive how Mel Gibson either wins or loses. The final almost 15 minutes of the movie is just about this one act. Will he succumb and kiss the royal seal and the royal emblem, or will he be able to hold out? Even when the princess, or if Longshanks had just died, I guess she would be the queen, whatever. She comes to see him. I can't bear your suffering. Take this vial. It'll dull your senses or make you numb. And he takes it, but then he spits it out. I must have my senses. I must have my wits. Why is it so important to Mel Gibson? Is something being said here? You know, what is your definition in this life of kissing the royal emblem? We need to define that for ourselves. If the royal emblem is the Notnilc And whoever's offering it forward, this person here is just a minion class. This is a perfect representation of the Notnilc itself, something in the shadows in the background, the screen, the asshole dark, something represented in this case by a symbol, kiss the royal emblem on my cloak, and a minion offering it up. This could be Henry Kissinger, Lady Gaga, or whoever. Minion class has been the same from time immemorial. And why must he hold out? Is there something much, much bigger going on here? We have to decide for ourselves what it means to kiss the royal seal offered by the Minion class in this reality as we go through it and we try to navigate the asshole dark and the minions. What exactly does this mean to us? And we're always so vague with this. We don't get into the details the way we should. This Chiron's last channel, no matter what you agree with, disagree with, doesn't matter here. But we can use what's going on there to make my point here. Where is your definition along the sliding scale of kissing the royal emblem on the cloak? Kissing the Notnilc, not going far enough. Why is Mel Gibson so adamant that he won't kiss it? He won't end his own suffering. That's what we have to bring in a little bit. But the Chiron last channel, he goes as far as anybody I've ever heard will go down one end of the sliding scale. It seems like he would say, you have to give up everything, no possessions, no bank account, nothing. And I think he would say, if you don't do that, then you are kissing the royal emblem on the minion's cloak, which represents the Notnilc. I'm not saying you have to go that far. I'm just saying it's an interesting thing because we have to define kissing the cloak and what that means for ourselves. We don't do a good job of that in this community. Part 1, we see through the trick. Got it. Check the box. Part 2, start to work on yourself, your spiritual whole. Reverse Horcrux. Bring everything back together. Find the parts of yourself that are missing. Drop the baggage. Okay, do the work. Check that box. But what are the specific standards of success? Do we ever write down a specific? Do I ever write down, I need to do this before I die or in the time I have left or whatever? We don't do a good job. I'm not saying you have to go walk into the wild naked and they can come behind you in the Discovery Channel and film Naked and Afraid. I'm not saying he's right, or I'm saying it's an interesting exercise because it is true. We need to do a better job of defining this for ourselves. What does it mean to kiss the emblem with the minion offering the emblem to us? It doesn't mean there is one size that fits all. But I think this is a good time to start being a little bit more specific in what we need to accomplish. The no consequences people would remind me at about this time that, Matt, don't make this presentation just with the assumption there's winning and there's losing, and you have to define the standard of what you consider to be kissing the royal emblem on the Notnilc cloak or not kissing. And if you kiss it, then you've lost. And if you don't kiss it, then you've won. If you've held out like Mel Gibson, you've won. The no consequences person would say there's no winning or losing here. Even Tony has alluded to things like this, saying, Matt, you guys, you truthers, you're all holier than thou, and you all have to do the right thing. And he said your higher self can actually, if your higher self has an incarnation of itself into a reality system, and that incarnation is a total asshole, like goes off and joins the Sopranos, and he's like, that person was an asshole. That doesn't mean they lost. The higher self can actually benefit from that also. I don't want to hear that. I don't want Tony to be correct about that. I don't want my higher self to be like, I got this asshole in this Sopranos gang, and I've got one in the Bloods and the Crips, and these are assholes, and Matt's always trying to help the little old lady across the road and do the right things. And as higher self, I'm learning from all of it. I don't like to hear that. I prefer, just the nature of who I am, that if somebody decides to go off and do those nasty things, that's a failed life. That's a loser. That's a failed position. Again, some of these guys would say, higher self learns no matter what. I'm not thrilled with that. But again, all I can do, here we go again, worry about yourself. Worry about I know what I am called to do. Somebody could come to me and say, Matt, I can convince you 100% there are no consequences if you want to go off and join this Donnie Brasco gang or whatever. I wouldn't be like, oh, yay, now I can go be the pimp that I really wanted to be. I wouldn't do it anyway. See, what I do and what you do, I'm sure, you don't do it for a reward, right? You don't do it because anyone's watching. I'm doing what I'm called to do. So in that regard, it doesn't matter. I'm going to do the same thing and run my life the same way, no matter what. So I guess it doesn't matter. Although I guess if I'm being honest, if my higher self has an incarnation that's running drugs across the Nicaraguan border, that should be a failed life. But I don't know. Maybe it's not. I didn't commune with my higher self like Tony and some other people, so I can't tell you. I just worry about myself. But in terms of worry about your self philosophy, we don't have details. This Minion is offering, he's saying to Mel Gibson, it can all go away, all your torture. Just kiss the royal emblem on my cloak. What does that mean specifically to me? If again, we don't know for sure if there's no consequences people are right. There could be winning and losing. Everything in reality presents that there are winners and losers, right down to this example. If Mel Gibson kisses it, he loses. What is that representative of? If I have done too many things in terms of making contract with this reality, or haven't dropped certain attachments, or I have too many Jacob Marley chains, or I believe in my straw man, or I operate through my digital twin in my straw man, or whatever, is that a cumulative act of kissing the royal emblem on the Notnilc cloak? That does imply winners and losers, but I hate to tell you, no consequences, people. The whole structure of observing the Notnilc does imply winners or losers, or why are they working so hard in what they do? In observing one side of the equation, or our adversary, the Notnilc, for 14 years, it operates like there are winners and losers. As we said, it works 24/7, 365. It's the Terminator. It never stops. It never congratulates itself. It always gets up in our business. It never ends. It always looks for new ways to increase its position. If in observing it, it's operating like there's winners or losers. It's like sitting back as a kingdom and all these troops are amassing all around the kingdom and don't worry about it. They're just having exercises. They're not going to invade. But all these ships have just pulled up and they're just right off the beach and all that. It's okay. See, sometimes you have to learn something through the activities of what you consider to be your enemy. They act like there's winners and losers, and contractually they're here to play a role, to do something, to block your spiritual journey or whatever it may be. I always say to the no consequences people, of which Scott is the president, what's it working so hard for if there are no consequences? I mean, it's just trying to feed. It needs energy. It needs loosh. It just tries to get us into a bad emotional state, worry, stress, anxiety, fear, anger, just so it can feed. There's no winning metric for it at all. It doesn't seem that way. All right, it's a possibility. By the no consequences people, guys, come and say, okay, if you were dropped in here as part of a spiritual whole, and this does make sense. Okay, this is a strong argument on their side. If it was just you, but if you were part of a larger spiritual whole, would that larger spiritual whole allow anything to happen to you? Would it ever have put you in here if you could give, they hate the term soul tokens, if you could give soul tokens away and eventually via your actions and deeds flush yourself down the Pope's abyss, where I've said it a million times, and the no consequences people have drawn me away from this. But I used to say, well, maybe, the Pope's maybe truth drop, that bad souls and spirits don't go to hell, Pope Francis said, they just go to the abyss, which means that's like the giving away soul tokens concepts. And the no consequences people, mostly Scott, that's why he's the president, but others have had similar viewpoints, say you can't give yourself away spiritually, or you wouldn't ever have been put here in the first place. You wouldn't have gone in, or your higher self wouldn't have put you in. That you may give your energy away, and that might have a spiritual origin or a spiritual well, but you can produce basically endless amounts of it. It's like a plant uses the sun's energy, right? But does the sun just get dim because the plant gets big? No, the sun doesn't change at all because the plant gets big. In this case, the plant would be something like Hillary Clinton or John Kerry or any of these minions that would try to take energy or behalf of their egregores and their corporations that are Notnilc, whatever. It's like you produce an endless amount of it. You might make bad choices and might do some, but you can't give yourself away. And there's a lot of merit to that position as well. But I always fall back, it's like, what's it? Look at this thing we're up against. Clarice, what is this? What does it do, this man you seek? kills women. That is incidental. What is this thing we seek to understand? It's just about taking our energy? Doesn't act at all like it can be a winner and it can put us into a loser state? Oh, it does act that way. And I'm not going to ever put my guard down or take my armor off because of that. So the main point to emphasize now, in case this conversation goes in a million different places, where all the weird shit I'm capable of going, the main point is defining our own definition of success and no longer being vague with it. So again, some would say, that's not my position. I don't know exactly where I stand here at all, but some would say, if you're not willing to give it all up, you've lost. You have kissed the Notnilc's cloak and the minion holding it out, the royal emblem, if you're not willing to give it all up. Not my position, but I applaud people that have a position. I'm a little too vague about it. The whole point of this presentation is it need to be more specific. That person would say, well, I've seen through the trick. I don't believe in the trick. I see that the straw man is not myself. I've dropped these Jacob Marley chains. I no longer believe what I believe. I cut attachment. I see when it's trying to make contract with me by saying, click here, or click, I'm not a robot. I've dropped all this. I've nullified the power of all this via affirmation. And those, quote, types of people would still say, so what? You haven't done enough. I'm not there, but at least some people have a specific stance on where they need to be. That's the point of this presentation. I don't think we have to know exact. We have to have the 5 exact things we have to get done. We either will get them done or we'll go to the abyss. No, I don't think it's like that either. I'm just saying we're so vague that we need to be more like this, more into the specifics than we have been in the past. In this example, maybe whatever you consider truth is coming out of this last scene. And I have no idea where this is going to go. This might take a few minutes, but we need to explore this. Why is Mel Gibson so insistent, let's assume this is a truth drop, so insistent on not kissing the cloak or the robe or the emblem on the cloak? At the first grade level, just from the historical standpoint, not looking at it at different layers for truth, we could see why the king's servant or the minion of that time period wants to have the prisoner kiss the emblem on the cloak. The first level, people would say, look, there's a big crowd. The minion has to always show that the king's in charge, that all the enemies of the king will eventually succumb. The message that gets to the crowd is all that important. And if this William Wallace is so world famous, well, the message will maybe travel far and wide, that he eventually kissed the cloak and eventually gave his allegiance to Longshanks, even though people would know he was forced into that because of the torture. Okay, we can see why he wants it, but why is Mel Gibson so insistent on not doing it? Think about it. So 3 different types of torture. Just horrible, horrible stuff. So if he doesn't kiss the royal emblem, what does he think? Nothing reasonable could come out of that the crowd is just going to overrun Longshanks and they're going to see that one person can stand up to it, then they all can. It doesn't matter. It does. So it's like something almost being said here. So if anybody wants to implement the specifics of this exercise, and I need to do a better job myself, you'd write down, what does it mean to me to have kissed the royal emblem on the cloak? Okay, kiss the Notnilc emblem on the minion cloak. And maybe you're not ready to define it exactly for yourselves, but you could define what was a losing behavior in your friends and family. Okay, the first one that just pops into mind, of course, is what was laid down in 2020. Most of your friends, your family, your neighbors, of course, they went along with everything. They bought it. They did everything that they were told. They went and got whatever. Then they got the punky booster. And they just followed every single step of what was said to do and recommended and believed every bit of what they told. And many of us would scream, if the people that went along with every single phase since 2020, they have kissed the royal emblem on the Notnilc cloak. And some would say, then there's if you've gone that far, well, I'm saying there's no going back. I was a child of the Matrix. You were likely too. We can come out of it. Everybody potentially come out of it. But the cement we talked about 2 years ago, it was a phase where the cement was drying. Things were kind of setting up. There could be people that come into truth, but the cement has kind of hardened. At this point, with all the craziness in the world, all we've seen and observed, if you don't kind of see what's going on the way we see it at this point, I don't want to say you never will, but you understand what I'm saying, that the cement has kind of hardened. So somebody, you might want to write these down in terms of your friends and family. They did everything that Johnson and Johnson and Pfizer recommend. I'm not just talking about that. Some people that are subscribers here, they work at a hospital group. They had to. Okay, I said many times, nobody doomed themselves. It's cumulative dooming of yourself in this reality. Nobody doomed themselves through one or two actions because they had to keep their job. Okay, believe that strongly. I'm not trying to say that to keep subscribers. Right? Some people had to go back to work in certain areas where they had to. Well, then make it up in other areas. Nobody's doomed because of a shot of liquid. Okay, that's bullshit. It's cumulative here. If that was the case, why are they still working so hard? If they won through that action, are they working harder now or just as hard as they always have been? The Notnilc system, Matt, and the Minions on its behalf are working just as hard now as it always has been. That means that they didn't win. Okay, if you had to do that to keep your hospital job or whatever. Okay, you know my feeling on that. I didn't do it, but okay. So, but somebody might, you say, my uncle, he bows down to everything that comes on Fox News. Then he gets excited about the election or revved up about the other side and the Democrats. And he has kissed the royal seal on the Notnilc's cloak. Define it in terms of your friends and family, if you want, before deciding to define it or put it on yourself. Again, I warn you in a way or on behalf of the no consequences people, if you write that, have I done anything to have kissed the royal emblem on the Notnilc cloak, and how do I, through affirmation and deed and action and whatever, how do I get out of that? Similar to dropping Jacob Marley chains. It does imply winners and losers. This last scene in Braveheart applies winners and losers with a very defined action. Is that the case? We're manifestor, creator beings, generative beings. If you define a winning and a losing, you may manifest that on yourself. And it's great if you meet the statistics or the metrics to win, you win. But if you don't, maybe you manifested on yourself a loss. We generally get what we believe, in my opinion. Nevertheless, it's good to see, put it in this way, because this is how the Notnilc makes its offering. And in me, it does imply winners and losers. But the Notnilc, if you or let's just say your friends and family, in many different areas of their lives, have kissed the royal emblem on the cloak. How many hundreds of ways have your friends and family done it? Sometimes we kind of still need to do it. Depends on your definition. Do you have to give up everything? If I go to the driver's center and have to renew my driver's license to drive, Matt, you've kissed the royal emblem on the Notnilc cloak by getting a new driver's license. I don't take it that far. I think we ultimately have the power through affirmation we decide what we get. See, if you put a metric in, like you have to give up everything, or if you did this, you're screwed. If you put these metrics in, then you become subservient to the metrics. You're no longer above the metrics. Are you above karma, or is karma above you? And if anybody's screaming at me from their bathtub, I can hear you. Then, Matt, this exercise in terms of defining specifics may be dangerous. Because as a generative being, or you get what you expect to get, if you don't meet these metrics, you could potentially be setting up where you're dooming yourself. Okay, I wasn't aware of this. We talked this out together. That is a possibility. This isn't the last time we'll talk about this. But it's all points. At least we can do the specifics in terms of our friends and family. Project it outward. I have certain you have family members, and I have, that are the worst of the worst in terms of everything that came via 2020. And people that, it's horrible. We need to see, this is part of the work, part 2 of the book. Part 1, seeing the trick. Part 2, doing the work. The work isn't complicated. I just wanted to say a few minutes ago, certain family members I don't even want to be around. I'm so disgusted with what, you can even hear it in the way I said that. Okay, it gets back to the person that for the family reunion, and this is the tail end of everything that was going on, the mask enforcement when going into shops and malls was almost nothing. She still said to come to the family reunion. I have to sit outside with a mask on. I mean, it still infuriates me, but you can hear the anger in my voice. But then, Matt, you just wrote a book, and part two of the book is doing the work. And wouldn't you think that doing the work is being able to be bigger than having the anger? Yes, that absolutely. That's something I need to work on. But we all have a family member that more than any just succumbed to everything. I had a family member that went and got cash out and put the cash in a pile, fives and tens, and then it, like, quarantined it somehow, maybe sprayed it with Lysol or something, and then they would use, like, they knew the exact change when they would get a pizza or whatever, so they took the contact list to the utmost or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like they didn't send the damn money for the pizza in via FedEx. So it'll be there tomorrow. Make sure my pizza, FedEx is going to deliver my money because it's completely contactless. But they kind of did stuff like that. I mean, so you could define what has your friends and family done that you just see as absolutely just kissing the royal emblem on the Notnilc cloak. And, these sorts of actions certainly qualify. Now, what does that do to them? Are they then life losers? Did they lose? Look, again, these are big concepts, but it is worth talking about. All right, I paused for a while to think, and anybody screaming at me or throwing rubber duckies, I hear you. The most dangerous part of this, they would be screaming at me saying, Matt, be very careful in thinking this way yourself or getting people to think this way. If this might be a Notnilc trap. If you define the exact metrics of winning and losing, just kind of what was suggested a few minutes back, if you define exactly what it means to kiss the emblem on the Notnilc cloak, and then you fall short, or in any way you believe you fell short, which brings the karma in on yourself, which karma doesn't exist. It exists when people think it exists. Then the karma becomes greater than the person when it derives from the person. Be very careful, Matt, in putting out metrics. If that's a lot of the no consequences people would say, you're a powerful generative being. You believe you've won. You've seen through the trick. You've done enough. You've convinced your higher self that we've done enough. Get us out of these reality systems. And I hear you one last time, Matt. You get people to define specifics, which is kind of where this video is going. Now I'm backtracking. We talk through reality together. I don't have it all worked out. Most of the time when these videos start. If you define metrics, you might be playing it exactly into its hand. Then it creates doubt that you didn't achieve all those metrics. Then in a way it has you, because ultimately it knows you decide whether you're a winner or a loser, not it. This is probably the more important part. And I kind of see that as this presentation went on, it was kind of becoming, I was a little ways falling into a trap to a degree. A Notnilc trap. But I'm not going to go back and erase anything I just said. Even if anybody didn't stick with it this far, we will continue to talk about it, re-clarify, and learn together as we go forward. I can't believe this presentation's kind of going in the area it is, but this does concern me where it went. I mean, how far do you want to take this aspect of it? Where if I said a certain family member, because they just bowed down to everything that came on the news and bowed down to Dr. F in every single area, that family member that I'm angry with, they kissed the royal emblem on the Notnilc cloak. And did we just, or maybe they are NPCs, maybe they're not the same spiritually as you and I are, but did we just doom them? We created a standard of winning and losing. If figuratively, if my friends did certain things that represented in this time and era the kissing of the emblem of the Notnilc on the royal cloak, then they screwed themselves. We just kind of created a situation for winners and losers. We said our family were complete failures in this regard. Did we just doom them as NPCs? Day of our death, someone said, all these NPCs in your family here, they could eventually become real boy Pinocchio. But you said they kissed the royal emblem. You defined that they lost. It was up to you to define whether they winners or losers. This flies in the face. I mean, this conversation is bordering into the realm of going into the insane. But it's like, Matt, you give squirrels a break when you drive by them and they're roadkill. You go to the highest level, buddy. You are a real beauty. But you can't say that about your cousins or your aunts or your uncles. You give the squirrel a break, the stinky roadkill. Oh, you go to the highest level, buddy. You are a real beauty. but you can't do that to your own family? You doomed them by saying they kissed the emblem on the royal cloak. I don't know. Matt, this is absurd. You saying it's up to us if certain family members win or lose? Who knows? I'm just saying that I'm starting, as this presentation is going on, to see the danger in specifically defining success or failure, not just on ourselves, but on others around us. Again, Matt, you don't define one thing that squirrel had to do. You didn't say if it buried 40 nuts, it wins. If it only buried 39 nuts and didn't take care of its kids properly and couldn't find its buried acorns, that it lose. You didn't define no standards of success for the squirrel. You just gave it a pass. But you're doing that on yourself. You're doing that for your family. I kind of see the problem with this. That's also a problem if you see where this is going, and this is resonating with you, this back end, which is kind of concerning me. Then you could see the problem with somebody saying it all has to be given up. What does that mean? Talk about defining standards, which could create a losing scenario on yourself. And somebody, does that mean if you're walking with just a shirt on and pants, and that's it? Maybe you haven't given up the shirt and the pants, so you haven't gone far enough. What is that movie? It is inherently dangerous. That's from Hunt for Red October. To have your nuclear vessels in close proximity to ours. That's how wars have started, Mr. Ambassador. And the reason I said that is it could be inherently dangerous to define metrics of failure and success, because if on yourself, your cousin, your aunt, on anybody, on the squirrel, because if one metric is at all vague and you believe potentially that metric was a failure, you potentially just created a gigantic karma shit sandwich that just plopped into your backpack. Oh boy. If anybody's new, I don't believe in karma. See, I believe we potentially do have these creative, generative powers. Karma, the way it's presented through, have I gone 7 years in Tibet and studied every little bit of it? Did I go over there with Eddie Murphy and the Golden Child? No. But basically, the way I understand it, karma is larger than the individual. Karma is only larger than the individual if the individual believes karma exists or is larger. Karma doesn't exist without the individual's belief in it. Why would I think karma is different than an egregore or anything else? Completely take the power away from it. People, did I do enough to overcome karma? Like it's something bigger. People say, no, it's lower than you. If you don't believe in it, it doesn't exist. I do believe that. All right, if anybody's new, because this has been, I don't even know how all over the place this has been. Let's go back and reaffirm the basics if anybody's new. Or if, Matt, I'm not new and I don't understand a damn thing you said so far. Okay, let's go back to the basics and use Wayne's graphic to do that. At least while we're alive in the body, in the avatar, this is reality to us. Although we are a greater being in this reality, in this experience, we are very small here. That it was designed that way. There's one little tiny person. If you can see it on a phone, there's one little speck inside that ring. That's a real person. And everything else, the endless complexity and confusion that Wayne created in this Notnilc system, what really exists out our window is hundreds of thousands of times even more complicated than this. And the person says, all of this for me. Yes, all of this reality system is for real people. Now, what is it trying to get you to do as this Notnilc has organized itself and its minions? What does it try to get you to do more than anything else? Demoralization, what I call learned helplessness, learned hopelessness. It tries to get you to believe, and quite successfully with most people, that you have no power whatsoever. That's its number one play in the playbook. It's run up the middle. And most people believe that about themselves. Saying you came from a big bang reinforces that. You're just a random accident, you son of a beach. You're a random accident. You shouldn't even be here right now, Dante, at the Quickie Mart or the Quickie Stop. That's all related. I shouldn't even be here right now. Okay, all of this just for me. And what's it out to do? First and foremost, to get people, real people, to believe they have no power. You know what that means? It means just the opposite is the case. 100%. If it works so hard to push this, then you know the opposite is true. If it works so hard to say you powerless, you have to bow down to this authority or this, that, then it means you have all the cards and all the power. And you can grant clemency to squirrels, and you potentially can doom your NPC relatives or say you go on to the next highest level. You have to assume, because of how hard it works to get you to believe you have nothing, then you have to believe based on it shows you that the opposite is true. It's not just saying that to make ourselves feel good. This is a world of ass backwards opposites. The no consequences people would likely say regarding that last scene in Braveheart, Mel Gibson, he would go right up and kiss the thing. He would if he knew who he was, for example, per I think the way the no consequences people would interpret this, he doesn't want to be put on a rack and have his entrails pulled out and all the torture. He would say, yeah, I'll kiss this to just avoid my own torture. But in kissing, it means nothing. The no consequence would people say, I decide who wins and loses. I decide everything here. In terms of kissing, what does that mean? Nothing. You get nothing out of this. I'm not. And they would say, I'm not giving anything away. I'm not giving a token of myself. I'm just doing this because I am in this body now. You're about to torture my ass. Put me up on this rack. Pleasant, yes. You're about to go through all this shit. I don't want to go through this shit. I'll kiss it just to avoid it. But I didn't give you anything. And the minion would say back to the no consequences person, what do you mean you didn't? You just kissed. What do you mean you didn't give me anything? You didn't get anything from me because I said you didn't get anything from me. I decide, you NPC son of a bitch. I decide. I'm one of the few real people here. I'm going to kiss it just I don't want to be tortured. I didn't give you anything. I decide what you get. Now get on with it. Chop my head off so I can get out of this reality system. Then I'm going to have a talk with my higher self. Say, why'd you put me in a reality system where I could get my entrails pulled out and torture? I'm going to give a talk to my higher self. Needs to be slapped around a bit. And ending with the focus back on the graphic, one real person in the middle of that ring. How many of us there are here? Who knows? Doesn't matter. So worry about your self journey. But look out your window, that person looking up at the entire complexity of the Notnilc machine. All of this, governments and systems and entertainment and AI is the new stinky thing in this reality system, and the millions of things that came before it. All of this, for me, meaning all of this tries to get me to do certain things, to act in a certain way. But if I see it correctly and I don't take its bait and I don't believe in its systems, it's still all of this for me, because I can then benefit and learn from it. Once we see that it is for everything important, it's simply a trick. It's simply a deception. The opposite is true. It tells you you have no power. Oh, thank you for telling me that, sir. Why are you thanking me? Because it means I know I have all the power. Even we're not going to have complete realization on our own, even though we're trying to bring forth inner knowing. We're trying the best to open up these channels. We were born Tommy on purpose, the deaf, dumb, and blind kid. We have to be blind to most of these things. This whole reality experience wouldn't work. So you can use the Notnilc. It tries to tell you, Notnilc says, you this. Thank you for telling me that, because I know it's the opposite. If it was smart, it would have endless Anderson Cooper TV shows and Don Lemon presentations saying how powerful we are, how spiritual we are, and then I would start to think the opposite. I'd start to doom myself, but it's not capable of that. All of this, it's not just for me. It's working against you, but if you see ultimately what's going on, then you can benefit from it. You're down at the Price is Right at the end. You made it to the end. You spun that damn wheel properly, or they still have that goddamn thing, and you get to that showcase showdown, and it's always the world of opposites and everything backwards. The showcase showdown it presents, the Notnilc presents wonderful prizes, a trip to Haiti, a new car, and all this shit, and you're going to bid on it. You know what? You know it's shit. It's not really what's being presented. It's the Notnilc. It's always going to be the opposite. If it's presenting a new car and a trip to Tahiti, you know what you're really going to get if you bid on it is shit. So I was going to say bid $1, but that might get you the damn showcase that you don't want, because someone else may have. You overbid on purpose. Bid $1 billion on that horse shit because you don't want no part of it. You say, you up here doing a showcase showdown and you don't even want to win? Not the shit the Notnilc system wants to award on me. I don't want that shit. What the hell are you doing on the show in the first place? What you even doing here? My wife wanted to visit Burbank. Just ended up here. But now that you're here, don't you want to bid? No. Sorry. The conclusion is I take back pretty much everything I said in the middle of this video. Right now, I believe it is dangerous to actually define standards of success, which creates It's kind of like creating karma. It's creating standards of winning or losing, where if one of the metrics isn't clearly met, you might believe you failed, doom yourself. This is dangerous to do. I take it, Matt, what we waste all this time? I don't have it all figured out. I have to work through it. They're exercises in thinking big. You'll comment, then you'll move my understanding forward. I'm not going to have it all worked out every time I start a video. I'm sorry if you had cookies to bake or whatever. This is more important. It's inherently dangerous, potentially, to define what exactly is meant by kissing the damn emblem on the robe. And even to apply that to your NPC family is dangerous. We're going to put a moratorium on this type of exercise, just like the way the fake AI community said they're going to put a 6-month moratorium. We need to have a 6-month moratorium, when in the back room they're trying to, on behalf, because they're all in the download, trying to push it forward as quickly as possible. Sam Altman and Elon Musk, we have to have a 6-month moratorium on the development of this. But then the easy way out is, well, we can't, because the Chinese will continue and the Japanese will continue to develop it. So we'd like to have a 6-month moratorium on the development of AI and Chad GPT 27, but we can't, because we have to keep up with the Chinese and the Japanese, lest we fall behind and your toasters become more expensive. All bullcrap. But I am going to do a real moratorium on this. Don't define any standards of success. If you scribbled anything down, I don't know, scribble it, throw it out. Throw it out. I'm not sure we want to do this right now, because if what this graphic is saying, if we are as powerful as we believe we are, we will never have full knowledge in this avatar. We are limited here, but it would be inherent to put on some sort of metric that potentially we could convince ourselves we haven't achieved. When a no consequences person would want to tap us and say, just say you've won and you've won. You decide everything. That's why it tries to keep you down. I hear you. To be continued.